that song.
I'm in love with that song.
I love that song.
I'm in love with that song.
I love that song.
I love that song.
I'm in love with that song.
I love that song.
I'm in love with that song.
Welcome, seekers of knowledge and keepers of the flame. This is the I'm in love with that song podcast, part of the Pantheon family of podcasts. My name is Brad Page, and each edition of this podcast, I pick one of my favorite songs and we explore it together on our mission to understand how great songs come together. We don't get into music theory here. No musical expertise is necessary. We'll spend our time looking at the arrangements, the performances, and the production that make each song great. Today, we'll be listening to one of the defining bands in power pop history. In fact, this is one of the defining songs of the power pop genre. People often talk about artists that were overlooked or not appreciated in their day, but went on to become legends and inspirations for future generations. Well, there is no band that exemplifies that better than this band. In fact, this band is the poster child for the most influential band you've never heard of. This is Big Star and their classic song, September Girls.
September girls do so much, oh so much, and you were touched. I loved you well, never mind. I've been crying all the time. December boys got it bad. December boys got it bad.
We'll be right back after this message.
Hi, I'm Fred Armisen,
And I'm Carrie Brownstein
and you're listening
on the Pantheon Network.
We covered Big Star on this podcast before, back on episode number 73, where we explored The Ballad of El Goodo, a song from their first album released in 1972. So on this podcast, we'll pick up the story where that episode left off. They called that first album Number One Record, somewhat ironically, but also with high hopes. And rightly so, because that album is a masterpiece. It got great critical reviews, but there was one big problem. The album was distributed by Stax Records, and Stax was going through a rough time at that point. They didn't have the money or the ability to promote it or distribute it properly. So even when the band got good reviews or got some radio play, people couldn't buy the record in the stores because the stores just didn't have it. It's pretty hard to sell an album when it's not on the shelf. So the record flopped commercially. Guitarist and singer Chris Bell, who was really the driving force behind the band up until that point, fell into a deep depression, and in November 1972, he quit the band. The remaining three members stuck together for a while, and though they never officially broke up then, they weren't really working together either. Enter John King, who was working on promotion at Ardent Studios, which was Big Star's home base, and he came up with this idea to hold a rock writers convention in Memphis. The critics were the one audience who had found Big Star, so John King invited 150 rock writers and record industry people to the Holiday Inn for a 2-day convention. Most of the big names in rock criticism were there. Lester Bangs, Lenny Kaye, Cameron Crowe, Ed Ward, Stanley Booth, they were all there for this convention, which was really just an excuse for Big Star to play a show in front of a receptive and very influential audience. So the three remaining members played the gig, and the critics loved them. That gave the band some hope that maybe it was worth making a second album. So the band went back to work as a three-piece. Jody Stevens on drums, Andy Hummel on bass, and Alex Chilton on guitar and lead vocals. The resulting album was called Radio City, released in February 1974. The recording was done very efficiently, with John Fry producing. The basic tracks were recorded in 1, 2, maybe 3 takes. The drums were recorded with a minimal amount of microphones, just 4 mics, but those mics were meticulously placed, resulting in one of the great drum sounds. Andy Hummel primarily played a Fender Precision bass plugged directly into the console with some vintage tube compression applied. And Alex Chilton played a Fender Stratocaster most of the time through either a Fender or a high-watt amp. The song September Girls is nestled away towards the end of side 2 of the album, considering that to many people this song is like the ultimate Big Star song, if not the ultimate power pop song. It's kind of shocking that it's unceremoniously placed where it is on the record. You'd expect it to get a more prominent placement. September Girls, and that's girls spelled with a U, G-U-R-L-S, was written by Alex Chilton. It was performed by Alex Chilton, Jody Stevens, and Andy Hummel, and produced by the band with John Fry. It clocks in at 2 minutes and 49 seconds. Tight, sweet, perfect. Not a second wasted. It opens with the sound of Alex Chilton's Fender Stratocaster mixed towards the right channel. You can hear Andy Hummel's bass note come in there too. Now, one of the defining characteristics of power pop is what's often described as the sound of chiming guitars. Well, what does that mean? What is a chiming guitar sound? Well, I submit that this is the textbook example of a chiming guitar. And you also hear the first few notes of another guitar part there panned to the center. That is Alex Chilton playing a Mando guitar. A Mando guitar has a body shape and roughly the size of a mandolin, but it's tuned like a guitar. It's also a solid body electric, not an acoustic instrument. Alex will overdub parts on the Mando guitar throughout the song. And that's it. Just those 2 guitar tracks, the Strat and the Mando guitar. But as we play through the song, listen to how rich and full this song sounds with just those 2 parts. Let's listen to just the backing track there. The bass, drums, and guitar were all recorded live, and this was actually done on the second take, with the Mando guitar overdubbed. And that part is really just doing some minimal ornamentation here. Now let's hear that again, this time with the vocals, and we'll play through the first chorus.
September girls, do so much. I was your butch, and you were touch. I loved you, well, never mind. I've been crying all the time. 'Cause some boys got it bad. 'Cause some boys got it bad.
The Mando guitar is playing a descending arpeggiated part that's simple but just perfect. Then there's a short little interlude before the second verse with the Mando guitar playing some fills.
Some boys got it bad. September girls, I don't know why. inside?
Let's listen to the bass and the drums during this verse. Again, it's not complex, but I just really like what they're doing here. Now let's spend a minute with Alex Chilton's vocals. To me, Alex always had this wistful, plaintive ache to his voice that adds some poignancy to his vocals. Even if the lyrics aren't particularly deep, the emotion is there.
September girls, I don't know why. How can I deny what's inside? Even though I'll keep away, maybe we'll love all our days. December boys got it bad. December boys got it bad.
That gets us to the bridge, or what's often referred to as the middle 8, because typically it takes up 8 bars. Although in this case, I think it's just 7.
I get too bad, night, that's the time she makes things right. When she makes love to me.
Here's that instrumental track without the vocals. That segues into a guitar solo played on the Mando guitar, but what I really like here are the backing vocals. That drum fill is great. It's just this cathartic release before the final verse. I like how all the instruments pause to let Jody Stephens become the focus for a second before they come back in for the verse. Let's hear that again. Let's bring up the vocals one more time.
I loved you well, never mind. I've been crying all the time. December boys got it bad. December boys got it bad. December boys got it bad. Ooh.
And I love that little vocal woo at the end there. Let's play that back.
December boys got it bad.
And the backing vocals return here too. And that's another great drum fill from Jody Stephens. September Girls by Big Star. They released the album Radio City in February 1974 and hoped this time things would go better. But they didn't. This time it was Columbia Records who dropped the ball. They had taken over distribution, but in the end, they had no real interest in Big Star and made little, if any, attempt to support the album. It sold 10,000, maybe 20,000 copies. That's hardly anything for a nationally released record. It disappeared, and with it went any hope of success. Andy Hummel was the next to quit. He left and went back to college. The band played a few more gigs with John Lightman on bass, but that was it. Alex and Jody did go back into the studio to record some more tracks, which were eventually released as their third album. It was called either Third or Sister Lovers, depending on which version you got. That is a profoundly strange album. Nothing like the first two, but for some people, that's their favorite Big Star album. Chris Bell, the original guitarist, singer, and songwriter for Big Star, died in a car accident on December 27th, 1978. Unfortunately, he didn't live long enough to see the band that he put his heart and soul into finally get its due. In the mid-90s, Alex and Jody reformed Big Star, released some live albums, and cut an album of all new material in 2005. Alex Chilton died of a heart attack on March 17th, 2010. Andy Hummel, who didn't participate in the reunion, passed away from cancer on July 19th, 2010. But at the time of this recording, Jody Stevens is still with us, still playing drums, and he's now the CEO of Ardent Studios. There's a pretty decent documentary about Big Star. It's called Nothing Can Hurt Me, which I'm sure is available on one of the streaming services. If you'd like to know more about Big Star, check it out. And thanks for checking out this episode of the I'm in Love with That Song podcast. A new episode will be coming your way very soon. And all of our previous episodes, including the other one on Big Star, they're all available on our website, lovethatsongpodcast.com. This is the part where I'm supposed to tell you to leave a review of the show and to like and subscribe to the show. I guess if you've never listened to a podcast before, then you wouldn't know the drill, but I think you all know what to do. Sharing the show with your friends really does help, though, so that'd be great. We are part of the Pantheon Podcast Network, home of the greatest music-related podcasts. Thanks for listening to this episode on Big Star and September Girls.
December